Recording is on.
Perfect. Welcome, everybody. So we're going to be diving into a restorative yoga class this morning, this being the last day of the RC. Gives us a great opportunity to kind of turn all of the noise of the world, inspiration or worry or anxiety or just knowledge, amazing week you've had. Oftentimes the RC for me, there's this of new knowledge coming in and then old wisdom coming through. So we're typically in this slightly overwhelmed space when we get to the end. And so I would like to bring forward the opportunity for us to move into deep rest and restoration for the 5 minutes this morning before we complete our last day. Welcome, everybody. And if you haven't already, if you're just joining the call, take just a moment to gather whatever comfy bolsters, blankets, pillows, cushions that you have in your space to bring around you. And we will start in a comfortable seated position. You're welcome to start even laying down if you want to just dive right into something totally comfortable. But we will begin with some breath work. Letting the mind and the body and the spirit come into one. Yoga meaning union or unity, letting these components that make up ourself come together in alignment through our breath. Letting that long inhale be a conscious experience of the body, mind, and spirit, filling the belly, filling the chest, quieting the mind, enlivening the spirit. And the exhale lets us settle any tensions, worries, anticipations, even joys, just letting all of that settle in and around us. And I invite you to take these next couple of moments to bring in a practice that you may have been exposed to at this RC or another RC, maybe a practice that you've been exposed to in one of your own home yoga classes. But allow yourself to have a little bit of freedom in what type of breath work that you want to start with. Or maybe it's a visualization from the imagery class. Maybe it's the idea of 4-part breath. Maybe even Ujjayi breathing, if you're familiar with that. The nice thing about home practice like this is that we can each find a variation that feels most right for us in this moment. So I'll give us the next few minutes, settling into a breath pattern, settling into a mindfulness practice. Letting this be a full expression of what you need this morning. Maybe if you need a little guidance, thinking about keeping the inhale and exhale even will allow the nervous system to come into a grounded space of equilibrium. Letting that exhale be longer than the inhale can drop you just a little bit deeper down, regulating that nervous system even further. As we prepare for our restorative class this morning, the idea of our class and our posture will be to allow the body to be in a position where it can find comfort. And in that comfort, it can open. And so we will use the bolsters. We don't want to think about trying to, go nose to the floor or anything like that in our restorative class, but instead allow the body to be held by the bolsters and the earth to find places inside for deep opening, deep softening, deep restoration. Often the challenging part of a restorative class can be the wanderings of the mind. We just want to acknowledge that the mind will wander, but we get the opportunity every time we recognize the wandering to practice mindfulness, practice mind training, and bring our awareness back to the present moment. Sharon Salzberg says that the moment that we recognize we've wandered away is the most important moment. That's the moment that we care about. We don't have to berate ourselves for the moments before or anticipate the moments after. And as you feel ready, we'll go ahead and slide off of our cushion if we're seated up on one. And I encourage you to bring the bolsters to your lap. We will extend our legs out at a slightly wider than hip width angle. I'm just using big yoga bolsters, but pillows work wonderfully. And you can stack them as high as you want. You can play around. These yoga poses will be held for a little bit longer than other poses that we've held before. So if you find that you need to bolster higher or lower as we settle in, feel free to do so. So our legs are extended out. Again, we're not at a full wide angle, but not quite hip width. Bolsters come into our lap. Hands can rest on the bolsters or fingertips on the floor. With our next inhale, we're going to extend through the spine, lengthening through the neck, sitting up nice and tall. And we'll come into a supported forward fold. So that belly is going to come to rest on the cushion, and then the chest, and then the forehead or the cheek. So you might find that you want to be bolstered up nice and high. So this is just a really gentle forward fold. Maybe you're feeling that coming down a little bit deeper is where your body wants to be. Again, the idea being that we can find ourselves in comfort, letting the body open into its spaces of feeling held rather than pushed or pulled. And we'll breathe here. Long inhales, long exhales. I do encourage maybe a count of 4 on the inhale and a count of 6 on the exhale, or something slightly similar. Moving into that deep restorative breath. You're welcome to allow the body to move and adjust as you settle in. You're welcome to push the bolsters slightly farther away or pull them slightly closer. Maybe allow the hands to rest up on top of the bolsters or down by your side. Again, so much freedom in these poses to find what's truly comfortable for you. If you have one cheek down on your bolster, I invite you to lift the head and turn, allowing the other cheek to lay down. You want to be mindful that we're working both sides of the neck and not extending one side more than the other. Maybe the longer we rest in this modified forward fold, you can start to feel the legs open, the hamstrings soften. Maybe even the back of the knee begins to come a little closer to the earth. We'll spend a couple of more breaths here. And with your next inhale, slowly begin pressing up. Sitting up nice and tall, coming back into that elongated spine, feeling the sits bones on the earth, and find your breath here. We'll softly move the bolsters out of our way so that we can bring both feet to the same side of the mat. From here, we're going to bring our bolsters right next to our side. So if you've got pillows or folded blankets, we'll have the bolster resting right up next to the side of our hip. So we've got, again, both feet to the same side of the body. We're sitting up nice and tall, kind of this mermaid style. Bolsters are coming up next to our hip. I'll show a couple different modifications for this posture. But we're going to lift up and come into a side bend. So allowing the body to rest over the side of the bolsters. Now, the higher you go, the deeper the side bend. The lower you go, the deeper the movement will be down in the hips. So finding what feels right for you. You're welcome to use another bolster or another pillow for the head. Laying kind of like as if you were curled up in bed. And then this top arm can come all the way up over so that you have a full body side stretch. That's something I can't show you right now. But if that feels good for you to lift that shoulder all the way up, you could reach your fingers all the way up towards the heavens. Let the bicep trace over the ear and then letting that arm come down, resting either on the side of the head or slightly behind it. So finding the side bend that feels most right for you. And we're breathing into the side of the body opposite of the bolster. So we're opening up the ribs. We're breathing into the space between each vertebrae, opening that transverse process. And finding the little crevices that we can expand into with our breath. We're really opening through the lung, the rib, the side body. If your arm is extended up overhead, you can feel that long line from the pinky finger down into that sits bone, creating space between the bottom ribs and the top of the hip. And so we'll rest in this position, finding the breath. Again, maybe an inhale of 4, an exhale of 6, or something similar. We might find that as we bring ourselves into a position of stillness, even though it's bolstered, there might be parts of the body that are holding. Maybe you're recognizing that the top of that hip is still wanting to creep up towards the shoulder. Maybe even you're finding holding in the quads or the feet. So we'll take a couple of moments, letting those habitual holdings become aware in our mind's eye, and then soften them with our breath. Again, if you notice that the mind has wandered off, maybe thinking about the day or thinking about your week, looking forward into your weekend, just recognize it's a natural tendency of the mind. We can honor that moment, as Sharon Salzberg says, that's the moment that's most important. I sometimes akin this idea of mindfulness practice to a basketball player with no basketball or a piano player with no piano. We need the tool for practice, and often the tool is that wandering mind. And then just as the fingers lay upon the keys or the hand grips the ball, our breath brings us into practice. Taking another moment now that we've been here for a few to notice if the habitual patternings have creeped back in. Have you noticed any areas of additional tightening? Or maybe now that you've been opening slowly and softly, you can actually change your position, going, a little bit deeper or a little bit shallower, just allowing the body to find those places of most ideal movement, position, and comfort. We'll take one more long, deep breath here. And with our next inhale, slowly begin to press up. We'll bring one hand to the floor, one hand to the hip. Just give a little bit of movement into that hip. Now that it's opened up nice and soft, we can encourage that full range of movement. And then from here, find stillness. We're going to switch sides. You being in your home space, you're welcome just to rotate your body. I'm just going to rotate the bolsters to the other side of my mat, whatever works best for you. So again, we want to allow those bolsters to be right up next to our hip. Our feet are now facing the other direction. And before we rest down onto the bolsters, we want to elongate the spine. So come up nice and tall, long, deep breath. And then from there, begin that arc over. That hand can come up and over the side body if that feels good for you. So again, that deeper side body stretch might look something like this with that upper arm floating overhead. And we're going to rest here, just giving yourself time to settle into the most optimal positioning for you in this posture. Breathing into that space between each rib, between each transverse process. Breathing into that space between the bottom rib and the top of the hip. And opening through that whole side body. Using the awareness of our lungs, trying to fill the breath all the way into the apex of the lung, which happens to rest just below the collarbone. The lung comes all the way up into the top of the chest, expands all the way down, either resting into liver or stomach and spleen. Maybe letting your awareness trickle down the body, noticing any places of habitual holding, tightening, any way that you can shift or modify. Noticing if the mind has wandered away, using that as an opportunity for practice, finding the breath. We'll take a couple more long, deep breaths here. And as you feel ready, you can slowly start to press up. And again, we'll bring one hand to the earth, the other hand onto that hip, and just rock and roll slightly, bringing that nice open movement into play, letting the body recognize how much space it really has to work with. And then slowly coming back to stillness. We're going to lower our bolsters again. This is one that you might want to modify once we get in it, depending on how it feels. If you have any low back issues, keep the bolster a little bit more at a medium height, and then you might want to go higher. Don't go as low if you do have a low back issue. A pillow is perfect for this, even a blanket that's rolled up or a beach towel that's rolled up. We're going to elongate the bolster in the middle of the mat and then scoot our body so that the bolster is resting on our sacrum. And from here, we're going to lower ourselves down. Again, the higher we go, the less intense it could be for the right at the hips. So there's a sweet spot between too low and too high if you have low back pain. So be really mindful with that. If you go too low, you might notice a bit of a pinching, and if you go too high, the arc might be too much. So we'll take a little bit of time to get into this one. It's going to be totally different for each of us. And as you lower down, we want the spine to rest on the bolster. And then we've got options from here. If you want a deeper lumbar curve, you can keep your bottom on the ground. I personally like to scooch my bottom up so that I am resting fully on the bolster rather than have that deep lumbar curve. But up to you and the health and safety of your low back. Arms can be out to the side. Our feet can stay close towards our bottom. You can place a bolster under the knees and let the knees go long. Whatever feels most right for you. The idea being that in whatever position you've got your pelvis, back, and legs, the arms are allowed to hang off the bolster so that we're opening through heart center, releasing the pecs, releasing the sternum, even releasing the throat, letting that heart rise to the sky. So again, give yourself these next couple moments to find what feels most right on your body. The higher you raise the spine, the deeper the shoulders will drop to the earth. So keeping that in mind too, if that's uncomfortable across the front of your shoulders, maybe lower your bolster. You're welcome to let the head rest on the bolster, or the head can drape over the top. But again, be mindful of the curvature of the neck. So we've got lots of different things to keep in mind to find ourselves in a safe and comfortable position to rest in. I like remaining a little closer to the ground so that it's not so much on my shoulders, but you might want a deeper heart opener and prefer to be bolstered up tall. I will show a modification if these are not working for you. So if you found your posture, stay there. If you haven't, you can watch just a bit longer. The higher that we go, almost as if we have our body up against the back of a chair, and then our arms simply rest by our side. So we're leaning back at a slight angle. We still allow the heart to be open. Palms are facing the sky, and we rest here. Finding the variation that feels right for you, and then bringing your awareness into your breath. Long inhales, long exhales. Maybe even some audible exhales. Bringing warmth and nourishment into the heart as it grows and expands. Filling not only that heart center, but all the way down the front of the body, down the arms, up and out the center of the head, and growing and filling into the back of the body. Letting our heart be expansive. Even if our heart is holding sadness, grief, worry, even if the heart is holding some emotion that maybe we don't want to dive into, we can still hold it there. Still letting the breath expand around it, nourish it, offering some self-love and self-compassion. We'll spend about 3 or 4 more breaths here. Again, maybe shifting the body if it needs to shift, adjusting your position or your bolsters. And as we gently make our way out of this posture, being really mindful, don't just sit straight up. So give yourself permission to roll onto one side, kind of rolling off the bolsters. And then once you're on one side, you can press up to a seated position. So again, we don't want to take the back through that quick transition of sitting straight up. We'll allow our bolsters to slide to the sides. We will be moving into a modified legs up the wall. Again, lots of options for this posture. I like being out in the center of the room using my bolster rather than being up against a wall, but if you have a wall in your space, you're welcome to go grab it. Bringing the bottom right up to the wall, sliding the feet up. You can use a strap if you prefer as well. If you have a belt or a yoga strap in your home space, you can lay on your back, placing the strap underneath the balls of the feet, and then extending the feet to the sky so that you're holding the feet up there. It's an option that can be nice. You can use your pillows, blankets, if you have a cushion, sliding that underneath the hips so that it's resting directly below the sacrum. The hips are higher than the shoulders. And then from there, allowing the feet to come up to the sky. If you are up against a wall, just giving yourself a moment or two to let those legs crawl all the way up the wall, maybe flexing the feet, maybe not. Again, we're letting this practice really be ours. So finding what feels most right on your body. In whichever position that you're finding, we want to try to allow the feet to be comfortable up in space. So if you notice that it's hard on your hamstrings, your knees can be bent. Or if you want to use a chair, you can lay your feet across the seat of the chair or the side of the couch. So lots of options here. It's kind of fun being in your home and using different props that are around you. And with that open heart, we can really feel the expansive nature of the chest in this posture. The back of the heart is rooted into the earth. And the front of the heart has been opened and expanded in all directions, letting our love flow out as well as root down. We don't always have to just send the love out. We can send love in as well. Restorative yoga is a great time to have self-compassion and self-kindness come into our awareness. Maybe using a mantra of, may I be free from suffering, or may we have peace. If you're on the call and you are on your moon right now, it's recommended to not hold this pose for too terribly long. As you can see, we're in the opposite direction of where your body's trying to flow. So maybe go ahead and lower the hips and lower the knees if you are at that point in your month, or you can go ahead and come into Shavasana. Just being mindful, so don't want you to end up uncomfortable later today. And we'll be here for about 5 or 6 more breaths. We'll take one more long, big, beautiful breath here. And with your exhale, gently bending the knees, letting the feet come to the earth, slowly removing the bolster out from underneath the body. And then we'll lower the hips to the earth and the knees come to the chest. If you're up against a wall, just gently press yourself away far enough that you can bring those knees into chest. Maybe a gentle rocking from side to side. If you want to take a mindful head to knee, you're welcome to do that now. And from here, we'll allow our feet to come back to the earth. We're going to make our way into Shavasana. You can come directly onto the floor, or if you want to have a bolstered Shavasana, you can allow a bolster to come underneath the knees, or maybe even a few bolsters. Maybe you've got a blanket that you want to put over the top of you to be warm and cozy. Our legs can be bent out like in a reclining bolstered Baddha-Konasana, or they can be straight and more of that standard Shavasana style. And we're going to start with one hand on low belly and one hand on heart center. Feeling the breath moving inside the body. Breath comes into belly as the belly expands towards the sky, and then breath comes up into chest. On the exhale, we'll let the air leave through the chest first, and then the belly will retreat back in towards the spine. So moving through this 4-part breath, belly, chest, chest, belly. As we let our breath expand in this way, really start to notice the depth and the expansive nature of breath way down towards pubic bone and breath way up into the apex of the lungs. And the whole torso has the opportunity to expand with each breath. And maybe even from there, we feel the expansion come to toes and fingers. As we slowly begin the transition from Shavasana out of practice and into our day, allowing an intention to settle into the heart, into the belly. Maybe may I be kind with my thoughts, my words, and my actions. May I be patient. Whatever wording feels to resonate with you, saying this one more time in your mind's eye with your next long inhale and long exhale. And from here, slowly begin rolling onto one side, allowing the body to spin the breath in this new orientation before you press all the way up to a comfortable seated posture. And we will meet back up seated, cross-legged on our mats. With our inhale, allowing our hands to come to heart center. And again, I want to thank you all for being with us this week. I hope that you've enjoyed your time. Good luck with the term. Have a wonderful semester. Be and stay inspired. Namaste.